suggested by one of you. And it's because, in this case, prosecutors decided to go to trial before the body was found. So, I have to say, it's aggressive, and they didn't have much physical evidence. And, the prosecutor, you might remember his name from the Jody area's trial, Juan Martinez. He was very aggressive in this particular case, and I just thought that it was a little bit different, and that it would help us explore a different scenario when most of the time it is hard to charge somebody, and authorities don't dare to do that without enough evidence, because it can really ruin an investigation and prevent them from charging that person if acquitted in the future if they find more evidence. Now I'm rambling. It's because I know the end of the story. Anyways, if you are new around here and you want to support my channel and get 4 extra videos a month, please consider visiting my Patreon page. There's quite a few new people there, so thank you to everyone. I am working on a slide for the new members added to the list, but I got a request and I am redoing it, so it will be coming. But in the meantime, thank you for choosing to support my channel. If you want to watch my videos ad-free, consider joining and becoming a member of this channel's community. It will give you like a little, and I know I can't think of the word. It's like a little, it's not an avatar. You can pick a little something, and when you comment, it will show that by your name, and it makes your comment with more priority, or it will show more than other comments to help us create even another community than in the same YouTube one. So if you want to watch all these videos without any ads, please consider joining there. I'm gonna stop rambling, and I am going to start with today's case. Jaime, and I am going to refer as is something that is expected from children born from immigrants. Typically, it's not all the time, it's not every parent, and I think there are different degrees. Some parents obsessed. I used to work for this lady who was an Indian doctor, and she did all her studies in India, then came here, specialized in something. She's very successful, and she expects nothing but more from her children. And she's a little borderline obsessive, and I noticed how her children were kind of resenting her. There are different levels of, this very, I don't know, common, unwritten rule among immigrant parents. So if you are in that situation, if you're a child of an, immigrant parents or whatever, and you didn't receive this, I'm not saying everyone does. I love my children. I want them to succeed. But if they end up saying that they want to be carpenters or mechanics or whatever they want to be or become, I'd be happy for them as long as they're happy doing whatever makes them happy. Do I expect them to finish school? Yes, I always do. But after high school, it's their choice, It's what is it that you want to do that will help you be happy and enjoy what you do. So that was a little long-winded explanation, but I thought that I didn't want to kind of put everyone in the same category, because in this case was kind of the extreme and a little bit obsessive over the idea of the kids going to a good school and being successful and having the kind of career that their parents wanted them to have. Anyways, when she chose the school that she wanted to go, she kind of decided to go halfway across the country at the University of Michigan. She kind of started her own life. She made friends, and she was doing great in school. Her group of friends called themselves the 516 girls, and they called themselves that because they lived at 516 Walnut Street in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The girls were fans of their college football team, the University of Michigan Wolverines, and they would watch every single game together. After Jamie graduated from college, she got this amazing, high-paying job selling medical supplies in Arizona. Her parents pushed her and pushed her to go to grad school, but she was sick and tired of being compared with her sister, and so in the end she ended up cutting off any kind of contact with her family once she graduated. Arizona was pretty far away from Michigan, where she was living, and kind of also leaving behind her college friends, starting a new life once again. She kept in touch with her Michigan friends. She would visit, she would go to weddings, but they started to spread out. One of the girls moved to Germany, the other one to Russia, and this other girl to Australia. So, after all those movings, they kept in touch, but less and less, maybe once every a few months. In Arizona, Jaime was extremely busy. She worked long hours, and she didn't have the time to meet new people or make friends. So she decided to join the University of Michigan alumni group. They would meet every weekend at a local bar and watch the Wolverines game. Soon after, she met Brian Stewart. Brian was easy on the eye. I mean, he was charismatic, enthusiastic, charming, but he was also very good looking, with an athletic build, and he was very into the Michigan football team. So, a little bit more about Brian. He was a personal trainer at our local Colts gym, and the two of them hit it off basically. And before, a year after meeting, Brian moved in with Jaime, and they lived in Chandler, which is a suburb just southeast of Phoenix. Jaime, of course, made a lot of money, and it was more than Brian made. She didn't care though. She covered most of the bills, and looking their lives from the outside seemed very normal, at least for the next 2 years. The economy was hit hard in the Phoenix area during the financial crisis of the mid-2000s, and the house that Jaime had purchased earlier was now upside down. So she owed more to the bank than the property was worth. I was there too, so it wasn't only there in her area. I remember buying my house for a certain amount, and then in the same time, my house going and being worth half of what I owed at the bank, so it was ridiculous. That was fine. I mean, she still continued to do as she was, and in August of 2009, that's when things got harder because Jaime lost her high-paying job. She started looking for months for a new job, but in the middle of a a silly mistake, but the truth was that he was caught breaking into a Mercedes and he was charged with burglary. He not only did that, but he also missed several court dates, so he got rearrested a few times, and Jaime would have to go and bail him out. But he always had an excuse. As far as she knew, he didn't have any court dates at all. He only would say something like, "I'm meeting with my lawyers." But Brian decided that it was time to break things up, and he got his own apartment nearby Scottsdale. But he was sneaky about it, and he didn't tell Jaime until he was ready to move on the night of March 17, 2010, when he broke the news to her. But before he did, Jaime had some news of her own. Jaime said that she'd been offered a job in Denver, Colorado, and it was something that Brian saw it coming. I mean, Jaime would always say that she didn't like the Phoenix area, and she was excited to move to Denver, and she wanted him to go with her. However, Brian didn't like the idea. He did not want to move to Denver, and he already had made up his mind about breaking up with her in the first place. So he told her he thought it was better if she went her way, and he basically went his. They had an argument, but according to Brian, they both calmed down and went to bed after it all passed. Brian had to go to work early in the morning, so he kissed her goodbye and left around 3:45 a.m. A few weeks later, Brian emailed the president of their Michigan Alumni Club to tell her that he and Jaime had broken up, and she was moving to Denver to start a new life. Of course, this was covering something up, and the actual truth was completely different. Jaime, as I was saying a few minutes ago, didn't have any close friends in the Phoenix area. Brian was kind of it. The other members of the club were more acquaintances than friends. She wasn't on the greatest term with her parents. I mean, she hadn't spoken to them in quite a while. Her best friends were out of college and moved to different countries, so she didn't keep in touch with them either. So, you probably know where I'm going with this, but sadly, nobody noticed when Jaime had no contact with anybody for almost 3 months. Brian would still attend the alumni meetings, friends were getting kind of anxious. These friendly people, not really friends, but acquaintances and part of the club. Her college friends, they had sent her numerous emails, but she was never replying to any of them. And even if she did go ahead and move to Denver, she would have had, at least the courtesy to return their emails. So, some of the girls in the club from their college pressured Brian to call her parents, and he finally called her father, and who lived in California, and told him that his daughter was missing. Jamie's father immediately called the Chandler police, and they stopped by James' home to do a welfare check. When they looked inside the garage, they saw her 1999 Honda, but her 2007 Ford Explorer was missing. When talking to the neighbors, one of them told the police that there used to be a man and a woman that lived there, but he hadn't seen them in a long time. The neighbor also mentioned that someone from a local Phoenix company showed up a few days before and said that they hired Jamie for a job and gave her a laptop, cell phone, and a credit card, but she never showed up for her first day at work. The guy, all he wanted was what it was given to Jamie, so it's not like he was worried about where she was. So the police broke into the house, and it was messy, but no signs of struggle. It was just looked like an unkept, cluttered house with mail on the table and clothes thrown everywhere. They found her passport, clothes, suitcase, but her driver's license and purse were missing. So it is possible that she left and took those things with her. So the police put this alert for the other vehicle she owned. They have this plate readers in most police cars, traffic cameras, entry gates, toll booths. They have these scanning devices that will continually scan license plates and store that data. So now the police can track where any car is most of the time. And they did track Jamie's Ford Escape, and it was 18 miles away. In where? Scottsdale. The plates were regularly seen entering the gate of a condo complex. So the police went there and waited. And Brian was the one driving that vehicle. The police obviously asked Brian why was he driving as a parting gift before she left for her new life in Denver. But you had to be a little silly to buy that story, so the police didn't. Brian was driving with an expired driver's license, so they used that to arrest him and to get a warrant to search his condo. Brian asked if he could go to the bathroom before they went back to Chandler, but the police said no. When they made the 30-minute drive back to Chandler, the police offered him to go to the bathroom, but he said that he didn't need to use the bathroom anymore, which was super odd. So police assumed that he wanted to hide something in his condo before they searched it. Brian had a very spotless house, quite the opposite of Jamie's. A little bit OCD. However, there was one thing out of place. There was a woman's wallet sitting on his desk, and inside he had Jamie's credit cards. He had been using the cards. He purchased camping supplies online. He shopped at Costco, Walmart, Target. He even bought subscriptions to online dating sites. Now, one of those cards was an American Express business card, and it was under the name Care Fusion. This was a Phoenix company that hired Jamie in Phoenix, not Denver. And they gave her the laptop, the cell phone, and the credit card. But then they also found a copy of his birth certificate. It was handwritten, which in the States, most of them are typed. So it seemed very interesting to the police. There was also an envelope addressed to someone named Rick Wayne Valentini and had different addresses in Scottsdale. The police thought that maybe Brian was stealing this guy's mail. But when they found a divorce decree in his filing cabinet for Rick Wayne Valentini from Michigan, that's when they knew. Police called the wife listed on the divorce decree and realized that Brian Stewart and Rick Valentini were the same person. The ex-wife explained why they divorced. Apparently, he stole money from her father and moved to Arizona too. He told her he was going to change his name so he wouldn't have to pay child support to yet another ex-wife in Michigan. She also mentioned to police that Rick was once physically and verbally abusive to her. So now they had enough to bring him in with fraud charges and keep him in jail long enough to investigate if he'd done something with Jamie. The police told him that they knew that his real name was Rick Valentini, and he admitted he was. He said that he wasn't running from the law, but he wanted to leave behind a troubled life in Michigan. They almost needed a violin when he started claiming that he had a very traumatic childhood. That his mom was only 18 when she had him. That his father didn't want anything to do with him. He explained that he lived in the garage for years, and then that his mom sent him to foster care. He said the only love and attention he got as a child was from his aunts and uncles. They contacted his family and they verified his story. He was physically and emotionally abused all of his childhood. But you still have to be a little bit more. Your story maybe had to be a little bit more sadder than that to get sympathy for him, at least from the police. So they kept digging, and our friend Rick had 3 ex-wives. He had 2 daughters too. He never visited them. He never paid child support for them. And when they interviewed the ex-wives, they all painted him as a pathological liar. He also was 8 years older than what he went by when he moved to Arizona. His actual Rick Valentini birth certificate didn't match his Brian Stewart, Arizona driver's license. So many lies. He had said that he was in the military and that he went to Iraq and Afghanistan, and he did. I mean, he was in the military, but he never been anywhere. He actually went absent without leave. When the military police arrested him, he stabbed them in the hand and the leg, and he spent 2 years in a military prison for that. And then the University of Michigan story. As expected, despite the diploma for the University of Michigan hanging on his wall and his ID card, Brian had never attended college. He forged the diploma. He forged his birth certificate as Brian Stewart. The University of Michigan didn't even offer an education I want to say psychology or sociology. It was written both ways, so I'm assuming it's what he went by. And at least that's what was stating in the diploma. Brian then revealed that he had an explanation for Jamie's disappearance. He said that Jamie lost her job and was about to lose the house. That she hated her parents, she hated Arizona, and that she wanted to disappear so she could start a new life with a new identity. So he was helping her create a new identity. also said that he kept in contact with her and that she even came back to Arizona and visited him in his condo. He said that she had a key of his condo and that he would sometimes notice that she had been there, and that he noticed because some things were kind of moved around. Police still didn't believe his lies, but they needed more evidence to charge him. I mean, they already charged him with fraud, but they wanted to charge him with murder without any evidence. So they continued to search his condo, and the search revealed that Jaime's cell phone and a small white envelope in the back of a filing cabinet. Inside that envelope was Jaime's driver's license, that it was cut up into about 30 pieces. He said that when he was confronted with that, he said that Jaime cut up the driver's license herself. But the DNA on the flap of the envelope proved that Brian had licked the envelope and sealed it, not Jaime. They went through Brian's bank statements and they noticed a charge to a self-storage facility. They thought maybe he hid her body there, or maybe something that would point to where her body was. They didn't find much really, but they did find weapons such as hatchets, swords, shotgun, a handgun, a shovel with clumped dirt on it, and a big roll of thick black plastic liner. I mean, this happened in Arizona, so we do know that it's kind of endless miles of desert. He could have dug a grave anywhere. He could have wrapped her in that plastic liner. But there was no blood evidence or anything that could be used to get a conviction. Then they kind of turned to the credit cards. Before she disappeared, they saw that Jaime had paid to run an online background check. Police believed that she found out about Brian's lies, that she probably learned about his ex-wife's children, that it was a lie that he went to the University of Michigan, and that his real name was not even Brian. It was a big break, but nothing that would incriminate him enough. But the break they needed was coming, because while he was in jail, Brian's cellmates told his defense attorney that he had some form of information he was willing to share in order to get his sentence reduced. The informant said that Brian talked to him about hiding a body. Quote, he told me, "I wish I knew where they were looking." He's wondering where you guys are looking for the body at, to kind of see if you guys are getting warm. This informant also said that he this was enough to convince prosecutors to bring about second-degree murder charges. Again, the prosecution, or the prosecutor in this case, was Juan Martinez. The Brian Stewart Rick Valentini trial began in October 2011. The first witness was a personal training client of Brian's. She testified that Brian would constantly complain about his relationship with Jamie, that he referred to her as his sugar mama, and called her a whining, nagging bitch. The next witness was the employer from Fusion that offered Jamie a job, the one in Phoenix. Another witness was a friend of Jamie's who testified that he'd seen Jamie just days before she went missing and she was covered in bruises. The thing that put the nail in the coffin was when Brian/Rick took the stand in his own defense, despite his lawyer's warnings. He told the same old story he had told the police, but it wasn't working and the jury didn't buy it. With only 4 hours of deliberation, they came back with a guilty verdict without a body, no physical evidence, and really a very odd kind of deliberation and conclusion to it. He was sentenced to 54 years in prison, 22 years for second-degree murder, 20 years for fraud, and 12 more for other crimes related to the murder. Her remains were found 8 years later. They were in an empty lot that was holding large piles of rocks and dirt as a landscaping supply company were moving the piles. Sadly, her bones were too degraded to determine a cause of death. But by then, most people were certain that the right guy was behind bars. Now, this is the kind of case that creeps me out. And at the same time makes me sad. How is it possible that nobody notices you going missing after nobody hearing from you for 3 months? Now, I've always said this since the beginning of my channel. I am not good. I reply to messages immediately. If I'm in the middle of something, I will not pick up my phone. I would call somebody later. And I've always been that way. Always, always, always. The exception is the school. You know, if my kids are in school and they're calling from the school, you know, a doctor's office or somewhere, but I am pretty bad with the phone. So I understand the, okay, we didn't keep in touch kind of thing. I have friends especially now that I don't have cell signal where I live. But whenever I have internet, the first thing I do is check up on everyone and see what they're up to, and kind of comment and let them know, I see what you're posting, and so I think there are different ways to keep in touch with people without the phone calls. But I just thought that it was so sad that it took that long. Not because Jamie's life was sad, I'm saying the situation itself. What are the chances that you're gonna meet a guy who changed his name and had 3 wives and is kind of cuckoo in the head and mean? Freshly graduated from college, maybe a little naive. Such a terrible, terrible situation. I can't even imagine what her family, had to go through. Not only without her presence and calls and, connection with them for after she graduated, but just knowing that this was it. That the one person she trusted, the one real person she thought was on her side that lived there, was really not. Let me know what you think about this case. And no, I don't think, this happened because of the pressure of her parents. Sometimes when I try to make a point and kind of share my experience, some people confuse with blaming somebody. No, I'm not blaming her parents for pushing her to be a doctor. I think that they knew that she was super smart, that she was capable of having the best grades, and that their approach was different, a little bit more aggressive. Some kids use that to, explore their full potential and push themselves, and other kids resent it. And this is not only for immigrant families, it happens everywhere. Some parents, it's the way they are. They expect certain things from their kids. And I'm not judging parenting styles. I think we're all trying our best with our cultural backgrounds and morals and how we were raised. We try to do the best that we can with our children, and in some cases it's easier to judge from the outside. But you have to be in their shoes to actually kind of experience for yourself what it is like. So let me know what you think about this case. Thank you so much for your support, for coming back each week for my videos. I will continue to go down the list of requested videos. I think I have about 2 more pages this series of kind of longer videos based on books. Thank you so much again for your support. Here comes the keys. Can you hear them? They never fail. I'll talk to you guys next